3 weeks, so it is 2 weeks and 6 days.
Yeah. And on that note, we're gonna call the meeting to order, and we'll start the pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thanks for coming out, everybody. We'll start with the approval of the agenda. Any additions, Tim?
No.
Dan?
No.
No. Lonnie?
No.
Mel's got one.
I have,
Two.
potentially 2 things that need to be addressed during closed session with the city attorney as potential litigation issues.
Okay, so potential litigation on L2. Okay. Anything else? Okay, entertain a motion to approve the agenda.
I'll make that motion.
Thanks,
Second.
Dan. Thanks, Dwayne. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries unanimously. On to the consent agenda. Any questions for the administrator on the consent agenda?
I just wanted to highlight one thing on that, is this garbage hauler license. That's part of a purchase. The GFI folks have purchased part of Waste Management Service, so that's why they're getting a separate. It's kind of unusual. You usually don't see Waste Management selling any other business, but for some reason they chose to sell this off. So that's why they're getting a separate license for that, so.
Okay. Was there anything on the minutes, Dwayne?
There was a minor correction to the minutes, which I've conveyed to Linda already.
Okay,
so.
and it was basically a spelling for the
Spelling,
word.
yeah.
Okay. All right, anything else? Entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda.
I'll make the motion.
Now, do I have a second?
I'll second it.
Thanks, Lonnie. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Visitors, I don't have any cards. Anybody have anything? Nope. Okay, mayor's report. A couple things. Just wanted to express my thanks to Tim. A couple things. He's handled some media stuff this week on the mental health initiative, which was great. He's done a great job on that, so I appreciate doing that and representing the city well there.
Yeah.
And then I appreciate your email that we got about the budget on how we're trying to get that back down under 6% from the preliminary, so I think that's reasonable and doable, so we'll wait to see what you come up with there.
Okay.
On that. And then as far as update on the mental health initiative, it did go live. There is stuff on the city website, so you go to the city website, Amy did a great job getting it right on there. You just hit the link and it takes you to a resource page. There's a couple things on there for classes to sign up for. Fernbrook just got their first class that's available to the community, ages 10 and above. So families, individuals, kids, whoever can join on that. And there's more to come. I know Josh Jensen's in Beverly House working with Community Ed to get some in-person QPR classes at the school. Those will be up there as soon as we can. And there's some other stuff with seniors we're working on. So appreciate everybody's help, patience on that. But now the big thing is getting it out to people. And, you know, I talked to the chamber today, and cause somebody had asked me, well, what's the big deal with the QPR thing? And I kind of equated it to CPR. I said, so if you're in your office and you're the only one that knows CPR, that's wonderful for everybody else in your office, but what if you need help? You know, who's gonna help you? So the QPR is the same thing as far as suicide prevention is, you know, the more people that can at least go through there's a 1 hour that's gonna be in person and a 3 hour online, so it's an investment of an hour to 3 hours, and you might just be able to help somebody, right? And then somebody might be able to help you. So the more people we can get to do that, maybe the more better prepared our community can be. So appreciate everybody getting that out, encouraging people to do it, and just, you know, it's just a little bit investment in time, and maybe we can help some folks out that need it. So.
Just one thing to mention on that too, as long as you're bringing it up, we have about $6,000 that's still out of that original allocation.
Okay.
So something to think about is there's some other things that, whether it's advertising, prepaying for advertising, radio or newspaper ads from some kind of, for the program, or if you'd like to prepay for additional hours or something like that, we've got a finite window, about a month here, where we have that expenditure, and then if it isn't utilized, we'll reallocate it before, you know, before the end of the,
Sure.
by the 15th of November, so.
And you have in that, South Central Human Resources, as far as the, 25 hours there,
Yeah, that's right.
That's already
Yep,
included.
that's figured in that
Okay,
number,
all
yeah.
right. I would say let's hold off on advertising and see if anybody's
What kind
taking
of
it.
response, sure.
Check with Fernbrook in a week and just say, hey, have you got it? Cause I know it's confidential, I explained it to somebody too, this, and so if I call, the city knows I called? Absolutely not. It's still a health-related initiated call, that's between them and the service provider. The city doesn't know who calls, when they call, we're just gonna get a number to say, hey, 6 people have called to take advantage of it, so we know how to allocate our funds. And, you know, what if a whole bunch of people take advantage of it, we have limited funds, well, that helps some of the nonprofits in town kind of direct where maybe they would make some of their donations or fundraising, if that's something that the community's using and we're getting benefit from it, you know, that's where the rest of the community needs to step up with the nonprofits of, you know, raising money and that type of thing, so. So let's just see in a week how many people are taking advantage of it, and then address it at the next meeting. Does that sound good? Okay, thanks, Tim. And then, just to bring up too, before we get to, it's at the end of correspondence, but our police chief was, let's see, selected as a 2020 recipient of the Towards Zero Deaths Enforcement Star Award. So congratulations on that, and thanks for your work with that program.
Thank you.
By the way, so. That I'll be quiet. Public forum, no cards, public hearing, committee report, basic update on zoning code.
So planning commission did meet on, Monday night, and they had a good meeting, and they were able to finalize and, make a recommendation to move forward with the new zoning code. We expect to have that for the council for your review over the next 2 weeks, and then we'll have it on the agenda for the meeting on the 28th. But, did wanna let you know that we didn't have any, there were 2 properties in particular, well, 2 or 3 areas of properties where they took a little bit harder look at them and decided to kind of revert the properties to their current, status quo for now. But, overall, I think it was a good process, and we're excited to get that rolled out, so.
Perfect. Thank you very much. New business number 1, market analysis proposal for Casson Liquor Store.
Sure. Included in your packet, you have, a proposal. This, stems from a conversation that I had with our liquor store manager, talking about the current location and its feasibility. We took a look at, the facility itself. We've done a couple of reviews of the space they have, and there are some substantial limitations with, which I'm sure you're familiar with in terms of space and growth and, expansion, that sort of thing. So, one of the things that we wanted to take a look at would be, if it's something that, would mean possibly even altering the location or the, kind of the design of it, and also where we should be focusing our advertising dollars and our sales. So this is something that a lot of, liquor stores and municipal liquor stores especially have done in the last couple of years. And you can see kind of the items that Kathy's identified that she'd like to know. It would give us a report, you know, it shows kind of the trade area delineation and the population. With the growth we have, we know that there's, additional sales potentially, but we'd also like to try and hit a larger target market. So you've got that information in there. Right now, that's, kind of where we're at, is we'd, like to move forward with just a market study to see what would be most beneficial for the future growth and development of the, municipal liquor store.
Questions for Tim on that or comments?
If you're amenable to it, then we would be looking at a $7,500 or around $7,500 expenditure, and it would be funded out of the liquor store fund, so there wouldn't be any general funds going towards that.
Sure. I just have one question. I mean, I'm for it, that's fine, see what we need to do. Going back to the budget on the liquor store, unless I read it wrong, the projection, so we have the 20 budget for gross sales, and then the projected gross sales for 21 in the budget was 24% less than the budget in 20. Is there a reason for that?
Yeah, Kathy's
Street
actually,
closure.
yeah, sorry, Nancy.
No,
Okay,
sorry.
all right.
Kathy has taken a look at what she talked to a number of other managers who've been through large-scale renovation projects, street renovation projects.
Got it.
And
Okay.
she's noting the more limited access will probably impact the sales.
Sure,
Now,
okay.
I mean, it's a conservative estimate that I think she's put in there, but I think it's prudent, so.
Sure, got it, okay, didn't think about that. I just saw the number, I was like, just stuck out at me, so, okay. Any other questions for Tim on this? No? Any comments or concerns? I'll make a motion to proceed with the study. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Thanks, Mel, all in favor, state aye. Aye. Opposed, motion carries. Kraus Anderson proposal for forensic investigation into the library building.
And I'll just briefly reference this, and of course, Councilmember Ferris, if you'd like to talk about it, you're certainly welcome to. This is something we received at the beginning of the month, and it was conveyed to our, library director for her review, and then to a library board. As you guys know, we discussed the situation there at the library, and the structure at our last council meeting at length, and, I'm not gonna rehash that. Basically, what the, architects, are saying is that they basically need to go and they need to reverse engineer this building, because the plans that they have, on hand don't really match what was built. And so they're not exactly sure where some of these connections are, where some of these supports are, things like that, so, you know, it's $15,000, it's a substantial amount of money. And so the library board, I don't know, Mel, if you want to talk about that a little bit, how they talked about last night.
Sure, we did discuss it, we did vote to proceed, because there are numerous issues with the building, between Kraus Anderson and the roofing company that came out and looked at it, who discovered some more potential issues.
Mm-hmm.
There are problems with the library, and we're at the point now where we need to start getting a handle on what the problems are and what the potential problems are that are coming down the pike, so that we can start figuring out how to fix it.
Okay. As far as the fee, I mean, I get what they're doing, so Nancy, refresh my memory, when we were trying to get the as-bills, weren't we gonna spend $10,000 on those?
Yeah.
Wasn't that the budget, so we could just
This year.
scrap that up.
So I'm glad you're asking about where to fund it, but, yeah, that would be the question if you go forward with this, as to where the funding source is.
Sure, cause we had that 10,000 budgeted at one time, didn't we, for the as-bills?
I think it's 10,000 this year for the actual as-built, and the purpose of trying to get the as-built was to address the problems, but the way to get at it was to try and demand the as-built, but
Right.
we didn't get anywhere with that, so.
Okay.
But yeah, I think we have 10,000 this year
Right.
budgeted, so we can put it through that line item if you want to charge it off to that expense line item.
Yeah, the other thing I did talk with Pat about is, utilizing fund balance from the library fund, which may require some deferment on some of the other projects they'd like to do, but in the fullness of time, you know, they may even need to do a little bit of deficit spending there if the project comes in wildly over what their budget is, and that's something they'll have to come to the council to authorize, so.
Okay. Okay, well, I mean, having been on the library board for a year or two, and now Mel graciously took that last year when she got elected years ago. The building needs, it's sad to say, but I mean, it's only 4 or 5 years old, and it needs a lot of attention. And if we don't address it, it's just gonna
Get worse.
rot away, it's just gonna cave in, it's gonna rot away, it's just gonna be done. So, as far as where to pay for it, so you're saying library fund balance for now?
Well, yeah, I mean, they do have a fund balance right now that's on hand. You know, we're looking at utilizing some of that for potentially parking lot expansion next year, and it's possible that still may occur, but, I mean, I think there are a couple other sites, we could use some other monies than the current account that would help support them in that way, which wouldn't be inappropriate either. But, I think we can probably manage that aspect of it. I think the nice part about that is that it's gonna give us this investigation, and then at that point, we're gonna have to identify what the next step is, and before we get into something that could be quite, you know, potentially expensive. And, so, anyway, I don't know that there's actually any approval necessary, and, you know, I think the library board has authorized this, but, you know, if the council's amenable to it, I think we'll proceed.
So I got one question.
Sure.
So this reverse engineering, and you can clarify, correct me if I'm wrong, this reverse engineering is basically just going to give us an as-built of the library.
It's also identifying problems that are in existence at this point, correct?
Yeah, I would say it's not necessarily as-built, it's gonna be more identifying, visual evaluation of the building, will not be destructive, to basically look at it, looking at the walls, the roof, that we did a quick walkthrough when we met with the library board. And then Carl Sanderson is a construction manager, so they have different contacts in the industry, work with those contacts, including an architect, to develop some scope of work for mitigation and repairs. Not detailing them out to the nth degree, because we're not into final design or final repairs yet. And then budgetary pricing on those mitigation repairs, so it's gonna be high level, line item of issues, how do we solve them, what
Yep.
the probable scope of work is, and what our estimated cost is. So you can bring that back to you, and then you can digest it and determine how you wanna move it forward. Likely at that time, hiring an architect to design the fixes, and then at that point, hire a construction manager like Kraus or somebody else to ultimately execute those repairs. That's the big picture intent here, so high level scoping, budgeting, so we can make a decision on what our next move is, so.
And the only requirement is that the architect and engineers and the construction manager are not from Utah.
Yeah.
I do think though, Ryan, to your point is, I mean, my hope is with this, is we will have an idea of how it was built. You know, I mean, it may not be called an as-built, but, I would hope that after this investigation, they'd be able to say, well, this is what is connected to this and that, so that going forward, yeah, we can repair it if necessary without having to always go back and you know,
Right.
rehash it again, so.
That's the only reason I was asking.
Sure.
If an as-built could be designed doing this.
I think very difficult to really get a true as-built.
Okay, I just was asking.
Yeah,
But
more thought of it
conceptually, I
to
think
see
that's
that.
sort of the idea would be to know what we have to work with now.
I mean, they're gonna be looking, they were already looking at the plans and starting to see how plans laid out and what was actually built, and
Right.
which is showing an as-built in theory, and starting to troubleshoot some of those issues and saying, well, did it change, was it approved, was it not approved, I mean, those, but it's not gonna be delivering you an as-built at the
Right,
end of the day,
right,
so.
okay.
So Brandon, in getting an assessment of this, short of what they call as destructive, you know, do they have an opportunity to drill small holes and scope to try to determine the extent of damage?
Yeah, I think this, I mean, we are already out there peeling off some of the stucco, so
Yeah.
I mean, it's already kind of destructive, like,
Yeah.
by where the condition of some of the building is. But I think they're talking about not taking down walls, I mean, they're gonna have to make some sort of assumption, you know, if there's water getting behind a wall, you know, they're not gonna take the wall down to verify, they'll make some assumptions on if it is or isn't, and that might be part of the scoping is, we get into construction, we're gonna budget for, probability of it may or may not be this way, and say if it is this way, then we will do this, and we're budgeting that, and then as we move forward in the final design, we'll work that detail out,
Yeah.
through either final design or during construction.
Yeah, so when I mentioned scoping, I meant physically putting an instrument in a wall to visualize.
Yeah, my understanding of it would be that their goal is to not have to close the library at this time. So, you know, up to that point, so hopefully none of the, I mean, it sounded like from when we talked to them that they will be going into looking the wall. You know, now it will be at a point where hopefully they don't have to interrupt any kind of service level.
Okay.
But up to that point, it may be that it's necessary to cut into things just because we don't know what materials are.
Yeah,
So.
okay.
Correct, and one other tidbit, I don't think it's in the proposal, I understand the architect that they're gonna work with on here has worked with the Grand Meadow School, which are also domes and had some,
That's great.
some issues also, so that was one of the things that we talked about with Carl, so.
That's useful.
Okay,
Excellent.
thank you.
Anything else?
No.
Proceed? Yes.
Yep.
Proceed. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Mowing acres.
So this is something that was identified by, the Personnel Committee and the Council previously this year, was, sort of looking at some long-term, and we'll talk about it a little bit later too with part of our closed session, but, identifying long-term strategies for, right-sizing and mainstreaming the workforce and the work hours and the workflow. One of those things was, the mowing that we do as a city. The city does a ton of mowing, and you can see here, these are properties that were identified by staff as, mowed, and, you know, it's over 100 acres right now. Now, some of them are ones that I think in the fullness of time will continue to keep mowing. Some of them are at such a small size that it's not, doesn't make a lot of sense, for example, by the signs, for city welcome signs. You know, it's gonna make more sense for one of our staff people to handle that quickly than just for us to add that into a contract. But certain areas, for example, parts of Lions Park and things like that, where it's very simple mowing, it seems like it would be prudent to look at other options other than having one of our staff people continue to mow that section. And so that's kind of what we're looking at. Including your package, you've got those, and then also you've got the, copy of the RFP, and actually, I've got some updated numbers too, just to highlight some of the numbers that are, at the end of the year now, we're pretty much finished up. The total hours is, let's see here, I think we had 216 plus, 631, that's 847. Yeah, total I identified, we had over 31 weeks of mowing at 40 hours a week. So that's how much we actually did with, you know, if you're just paying one person to mow, 31 weeks would be what they would have in total hours that we had this year. And, the number that we came up with was, a little over $44,000 was spent on mowing this year in terms of staff salaries and their costs for whole life insurance and benefits. So something when we do an RFP is to identify, okay, does it make sense financially for us to take some of those, you know, to eliminate some of that, which would then free up man hours for current staff to perhaps in-house some of the things that they're currently contracting out. For example, like tree trimming or things like that, we could do in-house that would actually save money for the city. And also in the long run, the initial savings might not be seen right away, but it will be in terms of the reduction in terms of cost for capital items. You know, if we reduce the amount of time we spend on mowers, that means that the life cycle of the mower lasts a lot longer than it normally does, and maintenance is reduced and things like that, so some of the intangibles, but just wanted you to see that, you know, the Public Works Director is reviewing that RFP right now, and I'm expecting to have that out to the public and to contractors in our local area, hopefully in the next couple of weeks.
Can I ask a question? I
Sure.
know a while back, Chris had mentioned this. Some of the areas that we mow, can it be put into wild
I was
vegetation?
wondering the same thing.
You know, I mean,
Yeah.
the state does it all the time.
Sure.
Can you do that around ponds, or is that not?
Ponds, I'm more worried about brush and trees starting to grow through them.
Right.
You could change the frequency of your mowing. The city of Rochester just changed their mowing pattern, in a lot of their parks. And I sent it at one point to the administrator, I can't remember what it was, Teresa or Nancy time, that I can send that out again, maybe if we wanna look at
That'd
that.
be helpful. I will say that some staff, I know Ronnie, for example, he was concerned in previous council iterations, when councils have received negative feedback from residents, you know, oh, it doesn't look nice, it's not being mowed often enough, the council's directed them to, you know, more and more frequently, and so that's kind of where they're at with their current pattern, is they're following what they've been directed to in the past. Now, I did talk to him, pretty clearly about certain areas, where, I mean, instead of mowing every week, maybe look at every 10 days, instead of every 2 weeks, maybe look at every 3 weeks, because it does, in some areas, as I think you were mentioning, you know, if it's a native prairie grass area and it's not a public park.
Right.
You know, we have, the property that is just south of the school campus between, on the northeast side there, kind of where the camp, whatever it is, something or other, Cap Castle, where they park, you know, right now, it's being mowed very faithfully and it looks great. You know, if we allowed that to only be knocked down like once a month instead of every week, would you get the pushback from the residents just to the south who bought those, you know, quite nice homes there? And so that's something we have to kind of fine tune and be prepared for some feedback. Some of the areas, I know Charlie mentioned, you know, we've been mowing them and they're not even potentially city property.
Right.
You know, maybe railroad right away, it's parts that over the years they've said, oh, we're better off just mowing it because we get so many complaints about weeds, nobody else is gonna do it. So the city ends up just handling it because the county isn't, or the railroad, or the state DOT isn't gonna do any of it, so, I mean, those are definitely some things to look at too.
And to your point, Tim, I know the city of Rochester got some pushback too about not mowing some of their parks. So it's just something to consider moving forward, so.
But if you have a, natural habitat,
Yeah.
people have less ability to complain,
Mhm.
and it's eco-friendly.
Yeah.
You know, you can go on and on.
Yeah.
It would just save us not having to mow it, but yet it's natural.
Mhm.
There are ways of spraying that stuff and keeping the weeds down.
Sure.
Or, you know, doing wildflowers, like native wildflower type.
Yeah, no, absolutely, and we're looking at all those options too. It's just a matter of, you know, I'll be working with staff to make sure that they're comfortable with it, because that's, like I said, they're reacting to what they were told in the past, okay, you gotta be mowing this, it needs to look a certain way.
Right.
Whereas if we're gonna say, okay, well now, for example, there are parts of Lions Park, you know, kind of on the other side from where the playground equipment is, I don't think it's used frequently.
Right.
You know, and if you wanted to put up a little bit heavier grass and maybe mow some little trails through there.
Yep.
That probably would be fine, it might even be kind of cool for some people, you know,
Yep.
that sort of thing is definitely a possibility, but, this is a good start, and at least we've identified some of these parcels, these properties that we're gonna handle. And, the same thing is the case for the street department as well as the sewer plant. I mean, the sewer plant employee mowing is something that, you know, their time is better used doing other things. One thing that changed this year also is something we'll be considering is, the state changed the rules for, young people to be mowing. You know, the last couple of years, it's been, no, you can't have a 16-year-old mower or an 18-year-old mower mowing. You know, they've changed the rules so that you can. So using some part-time help might be, at a lower cost level, might be something we could take a look at as well, so.
Okay. Thank you.
You bet.
Any other questions? Thanks, Tim. On to the administrator's report.
Sure. Well, you've got my report in the packet there. A couple items I just want to note. We do have that CMPAS meeting coming up, and I have put it out to folks. Right now, I haven't gotten any council members who are interested, unless you've RSVP'd directly. You did have that link in the email, but if you still are interested, let me know. Budget cut down, something Nancy and I have talked a little bit about, and each city does it a little differently. You know, in the past, I've kind of been tasked by councils to sort of negotiate some of those cut downs and start looking at them myself. you know, I don't want to step on any council member's toes either, though. You could see in there where I'm targeting to get down to 5.4%, and one of the ways that we would do that was, we talked a little bit about that, the discretionary spending with that $66,000 that we put in the budget, but it's not defined for use. So that would be something where it might be reasonably simple to eliminate some of that cost. And there are some other things where, you know, working with department heads, we'll be able to eliminate some costs too. One thing that, didn't end up saving us any money would be the healthcare. You know, thankfully, I think the council made a good decision there. We had a placeholder of 5% originally in July. The council said maybe put that to 10, and I think it came in at, was it 9.75 or something like that?
9.7, but actually we
9.7.
get like 9.6.
Okay.
Because we have a higher plan,
Oh,
higher
sure.
deductible.
Yeah, but suffice to say, I mean, it came in pretty close to target, and, I think talking with Nancy, we felt like it might be prudent just to stay at the 10% mark for that, even in the budget, where we might be able to save a couple $100, but it seems like it'd be good to give ourselves a little bit of leeway, because we do see people change to family plans, single plans, that we see a variable cost there as well. But, so fortunately, or unfortunately, we're right on target with that number. So, part of that is that our experience multiplier is pretty high. Let's see here. You've also got a couple things from the EMS committee, those are interesting, and, we'll be working on those reserve bylaw, changes, I think that, is that included in tonight's packet? Let me see here. Doesn't look like it was, but we'll be moving forward with that. So that'll be interesting, and we'll get that out to you for the next council meeting. Then utility rate changes was something that Nancy did include in our budget, our final budget. We didn't necessarily talk about it as much, but I did email council and let you know kind of what I'm looking at. And so our goal is to really just look at inflationary changes there really, with 1.3% for storm, and then 2% pretty much for electric, water, and sewer, which most will know is a lot lower than our sewer rate increase last year. And we are seeing some savings with water. We're really working hard to try and reduce our water loss. We see a little bit higher than typical water loss in Casson. Last year was about 30%, and we're trying to reduce that down to maybe a more manageable, 15% or something like that. And part of that is the utility department's working very hard to identify where those losses are, and if it's in our software, where it is. So, let's see, got those things. I think one thing I wanted to highlight that maybe I didn't include, Planning Commission did talk a little bit about a solar project the county is looking at on Monday night, and I was at the county board meeting yesterday where they discussed it. It's in a parcel that's kind of on the northwest side of town, across the way from the high school there, behind L&K Trucking. So that's something you'll be getting more information on as we move forward. So it's something where it does have a substantial potential effect to our development on the northwest side of town. And what I brought up with the county board and also with the Planning Commission is the biggest challenge I see is the length of the contract. Actually, I was told it was 30 years. Well, county board yesterday was talking about a 35-year contract with this solar developer, which that's, in that area, I can see 10 years, maybe 15, even 20 possibly not being impacted. At the 35-year mark, we do expect growth to go up towards that area pretty strongly because of its good access from the transportation side. So, we'll have more information on that, but I wanted to bring that up. And then you also have included in your package, you've got some information on the ITS timeline. Right now, we're looking at a work session for the city council and administration on the 18th, before the council meeting. But of course, that can be moved if we have people that can't make it. I'd love to have council input. We're looking at a session with council and admin, department heads, and then another staff, and then a number of public constituent ones as well, because we want to get that initial feedback right away. And I know that was something we talked about in February, all the way back in February now. So we're just starting that process, and you can kind of see what they've got as their feedback there. Let's see, anything else that I wanted to highlight here? We have another additional item in there, the COVID spending update. We just wanted to show you kind of where we're at so far. We're really fortunate with the project here at City Hall. We'll be starting very soon, and we were able to get a lot of great local contractors. We're really happy about that. I appreciate Linda working so hard on that. Something we always want to do is use our local contractors as much as possible when it can meet the cost concerns we have. We did receive an election grant. That was something that was an extra $5,000 or so, I think, that we received, and that's great. It's gonna help reduce some of the costs there, and with that, I know that, staff have requested we take a look at some additional projects here at City Hall, and those are included in your packet for review. One of those is a, safety project, where we would be doing some safety upgrades to the rear entrance here at City Hall, and I think that one is probably a really good, project there. You know, Linda's she's got a little memo in there, and actually, Linda, I'll let you talk about that if you'd like to.
I think really my memo says it all. We haven't done anything cosmetic to the inside of this building in since we got it in '96. So, in 25 years, it's still the same carpeting, same paint, everything. We got a little better deal if we did everything with the council chambers, you know, the painters and the carpenters can do it. They give us just a little break if they could do it, 'cause they can come and do it all in one day. And we're not really picky as to what day they come. The fob system for the back door is, the same thing as the police have. There's just, it's an easier way, because when somebody leaves or something, we don't always get keys back, and we have a lot of keys out there, for this building. So, I would just ask, in my request, that you make a motion to approve the expenditure of 1, 2, or 3, or all, you know, all of it, or just part of it? Or none of it, it's up to you.
Sure. Okay, thanks, Linda. Any questions for Linda or comments?
No, the security just makes sense. Yeah.
At the same time with that security, did anybody look at doing that to the Public Works building?
You know, I haven't checked on that, but it certainly is something that could be done as well, you know.
Cause you got people that come and go, people that have been released, they still have keys possibly, maybe they turn them in. It'd be an easy, then you know who's coming and going on the weekends too on call.
Well, and that is another thing we had thought about, and I'm glad you brought that point up. It does allow us to show who's accessing the building, and of course, usually employees when they're accessing the building have a very good reason to do so. However, you know, obviously in the day and age we live in, it's something that we wanna be cognizant of. No, I can check into that
You can
too.
go by there on the weekends and you'll see the bay doors open.
Mhm.
So, you know, there's somebody in there on
We
checking
can
the wastewater.
absolutely
So-
have them, I mean, they've been very accommodating, and if we want them to give us a quote on the Public Works building, I'm sure.
You know, that goes along with the same aspects of the security too, so. And then, plus it also keeps track of who's there, when, and.
Right. Yeah, we could definitely check into that.
Anything else?
Well, and the other with the carpet, if we've got fall hazards around here.
Oh, yeah.
Oh.
We need to take care of that too.
Especially if they're gonna be one area.
Yeah.
Well, that was part of the consideration was, you know, we expect to have a vastly upgraded, you know, council area. We also thought it would be prudent if we're gonna continue to have a value in the building to try and make some of those, changes, considering they haven't been done for a while. You know, budget-wise, you know, Linda's got some notes in there where some of the costs could be absorbed through additional revenues, for example, the grant that she received. And I do think that, you know, this might be a good year to do this, based on some of the feedback I'm getting from staff.
Okay. Entertain a motion.
I'd make the motion that we move forward with all of it.
I'll second that.
Thanks, Dwayne. Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed? Motion carries.
Okay, I think I talked enough, so unless there's any questions anybody have.
Got it. Thank you. Perfect. Engineers report.
All right, thank you, Mayor and Council. Two quick ones tonight. The first one is the Highway 14 corridor analysis. There's a snippet in your council packet of the website that was produced for the project. And ultimately, the groups that worked on this project came to a consensus on the future long-term plan for the Highway 14 corridor. specifically from County Road 104, which is where Vite and RDO are there, all the way to the Highway 57 existing interchange that we have here in Casson. So you can see the little blue triangles there, proposed interchange locations. Those are at County Road 104, CSAH 3, which is just east of the stoplights in Byron, and then CSAH 5 in Byron, which is where Quick Trip is there, kind of the older intersection in the core of Byron there, and then CSAH 15, which is Dodge County 15. And then you're looking at removing 10th Avenue, which is where the roundabout is in Byron, County Line Road, which is the west end of Byron there at the Industrial Park, and then also our 260th Avenue right outside of town. So that was the consensus of the group, so it was nice to see past planning there was no consensus on interchange locations, so it's going to help right-of-way platting, securing some land. There's development pressure obviously in Casson and Byron to help accommodate that so we can make some future plans. This is a long-term plan, so don't expect these to be built overnight. Short-term, there's been some discussion about potentially bonding bill, intersection of County Road 104 there. That's probably the biggest need there. So we can only cross our fingers and hope that that intersection does get built there. I could see like a midterm goal of eliminating some of these, or I should say reducing, which MnDOT calls an R-turn or Michigan turn on some of these intersections in the interim before the interchanges are built, specifically like County Road 3. It's been a nasty intersection there. That's been discussed very high level, so I could see some of that stuff moving forward. And then long-term, probably more of our CSAH 15 out here in Dodge County. That is probably going to be the last kind of puzzle to come into play here. So just giving this as a heads up, there's a website if you want to get on there to learn more about it. But it was nice to see a consensus that was ultimately decided, and that's the direction moving forward. So hopefully we can get some money to get some interchanges built and make it a more safe corridor than it is today. So any questions, thoughts, comments?
So the consensus is this is it, there's no anticipated changes?
Well, that's the consensus future long-term plan. There has been some discussions about proceeding with right-of-way mapping through here, specifically the intersection at CSAH 5 there is going to be a little difficult to squeeze in there, so they're talking about, do we move 14 to the south? How does interchange fit in there? How do we develop a frontage road for Byron if we cut off 10th Avenue? So I think that's going to be the next step of really putting pen to paper and developing the right-of-way. And the group is a little farther than what you're seeing here, so some of those discussions and work has been done. So I could definitely see that moving forward. So never say never until it's built, right?
Anything can change.
But I think it's great for the groups to all get together now and finally make the consensus. So, and we were peripherally involved. We didn't get too involved because really, my opinion and I think the council direction at the time was Casson doesn't have a whole lot of skin in the game, so maybe let's let the other groups that have more skin in the game work out their issues, because there was likely always going to be an interchange at CSAH 15 or County Line Road, which our traffic is already to County 34 at CSAH 15, so it's still getting to Rochester to our east. So that was kind of the direction that we felt in the planning process. So, any other questions, comments?
Nope, thank you.
All right, second item tonight, regarding the sump pump inspection program that we kicked off here a few weeks ago. We did have pretty minimal participation in that. We had a couple of Zoom meetings. We had like 12, 14 people on each of those, and then we had, I think, 4 people attend the public open house that we had in the Performing Arts Center. So.
Oh, I came for that one.
Yeah, I think WHK staff outnumbered the citizens, but and then Tim was bored and showed up about halfway through. So.
Oh, all right.
Well, he was on the Skype one, so we heard it all.
Did it twice already, so.
Yeah. So, but in your council pack, we have a letter here from a citizen discussing the program. I'll just kind of go over what we've talked to date. So with the sump pump program, the question was discussed at a previous council meeting. What do we do with sump pump baskets, the hole in the ground with the tiles to it, that don't have a sump pump? There is some properties in town that have a basket with no pump in it. The discussion, the conclusion, based on our recommendation, that property owner was non-compliant. They had 2 options: either add the pump or fill it with rock to have a semi-permanent installation, and you change your ordinance to represent that. We've proceeded with enforcing that through the first sump pump inspections. Why do we do that? The property owner, in theory, could pull the pump out during the inspection, put it right back in, dump that sump pump into the sanitary sewer, which is obviously why we're making non-compliant. We've had that happen in the past. Other towns are doing that, that's what we talked about a few months ago, 8 months ago, when we first talked about it. We are serious about this program. That was one of the discussion points that we have. We're spending a fair amount of money on the city side of things, for our fees to go out there, enforce this, then asking other citizens to do the same thing, fix their sump pumps, fix their laterals. So that's how we came to that conclusion. So we're already enforcing it. We've already told other property owners they have to do it. But we obviously bring everything to the council for your discussion and consideration, and give us any direction you want moving forward.
Okay. Any questions from anybody on that? And I just forwarded it to him, because I think we all got the email, and
Yeah.
I just was questioning, it's hard piped and the hole, it's their choice to have a pump or not, but that's what we have in the ordinance, so that's.
Okay, so I'm assuming you want staff to let the property owner know that we are going to continue on this direction, and
Yeah, I mean, somebody needs to talk to him,
Yeah, we'll follow up with them. I guess part of the reason is I received from a couple council members, so I just thought, this is kind of a prototypical or stereotypical, like, just so we reiterate, I mean, and it's kind of, I read through it, and obviously, he's got some very valid points about backflow preventers and things like that, but, and he even acknowledged that he understands the need to do this, to reduce this, he even says inflow of rainwater into sanitary sewer systems, so, I mean, it's, I know residents don't wanna pay, I mean, that's understandable, but it is, even here acknowledging that, yeah, it is a necessity, and we can't pick and choose how we enforce it.
Right.
So that's just something I wanted to make sure that we're following up on, so
Okay.
I appreciate that.
we will respond then.
All right, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Yep. Personnel, rescind Jern's retirement notification from fire department, so that's just on the agenda. Again, it's, well, it's not really his fault, it's, the Fire Relief Association had their bylaws redone to comply with whatever had to be done, and the state auditor's office is the one who supplied the recommendation on how to do the language. And so it took a while to get it done, so then we take his retirement, we send it to the state auditor's office, and they say, no, your language is wrong, it doesn't work. So the people who said, do this language, are the ones who said, no, it doesn't work. So we have to take it off, redo the language again, and then bring it back, so it's a technicality. I don't think do we need to vote on that? Do you want us to vote on that?
You should
Okay,
make a
I'll
motion, yes.
I'll move that we rescind Jern's retirement notification.
I'll second.
Thanks, Mel, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries. Attorney's report, we're gonna go to closed session to consider potential strategies for negotiations and strategy, and then number 2, a potential litigation issue. We will reopen the meeting and give an update on both items. If you choose to leave, have a great night. If not, we'll see you when we reopen. Have a good night, Chief. Thank you.
That first part, the labor part, will need to be recorded.
Thanks, Brandon.
The second part, we'll have to shut off.